It's time for the Cooper Group's road trip. We're traveling in a brand new 2008 Kia Spectra, courtesy of Cooper Kia. The town of Vernon was formed in 1802, and the village of Vernon is located near its center at the junctions of Route 5 and 31. It was once known as Vernon Mills because of its many mills, including one known far and wide for its pancake flour. Today it is known more for racing, both harness and dirt track.
For you. If you ask me to swim the seven seas or fight a crocodile, I will on my swimming trunks just to see you smile.
Back in 1835, Salmon Case wanted to build a building that would last. Well, he did. It's the stone building behind me. It's still here. You can come to Vernon and go in there. It's now called the Only Cafe. Right next door, tucked away in what used to be an alley, is a tiny little store that has always fascinated me because it's only some 8 feet wide. You can come here now and shop because it is a consignment store and gift shop, and quite appropriately, it is called the Mouse House. I am at the site of the original and historic Bank of Vernon. It is now the Oneida Savings Bank. The bank started across the street by a Mr. Case. He had a store, just an ordinary store, and he also had a bank. And if you went into the store, you could tell if the bank was open, if the red curtain around the vault had been pulled aside. If it was not pulled aside, then the bank wasn't open. Mr. Case's bank grew by leaps and bounds, such that he had to build a new bank across the street. It's here, Oneida Savings Bank. Times may have changed, but that vault is not moving. It's still here inside of a pharmacy. It's double-doored, and believe me, it's hard to open those doors. There's a church here in the middle of Vernon on Route 5 that is sure to catch your eye. Now, some people will say that it's a pink-colored church. I think it's more or less salmon. There are those who will say that it's Romanesque. I think it's more Russian, maybe even Greek. Whatever you think it might be, it is unique. Whatever you call the color, I like it. And I was very curious as to its origin, so I asked around. There were those who said there was a minister at one time who peeled the paint off of the church, and when he finally came down to the bottom layer of paint, this was the color that he found.
Reaching high in the new blue sky, there's a cold man and his sons, the kings and the silvers, in the rivers they run.
The Presbyterian Church is the oldest church in Vernon. It was built in 1815. You'll notice that it doesn't have a bell tower. There's a reason for that. Way back when there was a bell tower, whenever they rang the bell, it would shake the entire church, so that the parishioners decided they'd better, for safety reasons, move the bell. That's why when you come here, you'll find the bell out here on the front lawn instead of in a bell tower.
Just trying to find my way back home.
The Utica Rome Speedway has a long, proud history in Vernon. It started on some old farmland in 1961 and has become a spawning ground for some big-time racers like Lou the Monk Lazaro, NASCAR champion Jerry Cook, Jeff Bodine, and Billy Wimble. Dale Plank won 3 consecutive NASCAR regionals from '94 to '96 with his home track as Utica Rome. Sunday nights draw large crowds to see some of the finest racing action in the Northeast. Richard gets a ride around the track in the official pace car, driven by Barb Clark.
We are in our 47th season, so it's been here a long time. They used to have a lot of different classes back then, an old enduro race where it was a big smash up. We've had the Bodine brothers ran here. We have some really big name drivers that started here. Richie Evans, who was killed in a NASCAR race. He started at this track. He was one of our big time drivers. I have been coming to this track since 1970-71 season. My husband started running back then. That's how I got involved in the track. I've worked here for the last 10 years. Mr. Cole bought this track 7 years ago. He keeps making improvements and making the place better. As you can tell, we have a beautiful facility.
And the sadness in my heart will always grow.
We get a close-up look at a 358 Modified, owned by Bob Cullen and driven by two-time track champion Willie Decker. Decker was born and raised in Vernon.
Just lived in the hometown, always come down and watch the races, and you know, just rooting for, you know, all the guys I grew up watching and stuff, and then getting involved in it more, racing RC cars, and then finally getting my own car here and coming every weekend, and just, it was always my dream to be able to race a modified. The speeds here at Utica and the track's right, you got to be up pretty close to 100 miles an hour. It's pretty quick here at the track, and it's just awesome. It's awesome feeling out there. Well, your adrenaline's pumped up pretty good, and you're always chasing the guy down in front of you, and it's always got you on your toes, and you know, when you get that win, you just can't wait to come back the next week and get another one.
You can come here today. The gates open at 3 o'clock and the racing begins at 5:30. And if you're an old-fashioned race fan, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a new fan, listen for the following phrases: boogity, 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 and gentlemen, start your engines.